Welcome. My name is George Pearson and I run the How To Gurus channel here on YouTube. Most of the videos in my channel are short demonstrations of the different tools and techniques you'll find in various software programs. Right now I have several hundred of these quick videos available on YouTube. This video though is different. This is part of a new series of longer demonstrations that I'm doing to show you how to complete complex projects from start to finish using a variety of techniques and tools. All of the images I use in these projects are in the public domain, and I've included a link to the pictures in the video description in case you want to work along using the same images. Okay, let's move on to the project. In this Photoshop wedding photography video, I'm going to be showing you how to do a soft focus effect on this. Now, in this particular instance, this picture, there are several problems with this picture, and I'll be looking at how to solve different problems in some of our different project videos. In this one, let's just focus just on the soft focus. And when I'm talking about soft focus, I'm talking about having a hard focus for part of the image and then a soft focus for the rest. One way to fix this kind of confusion in here with the background is to put the background out of focus and then leave the foreground in focus. So you want to have focus towards the front and then soft focus towards the back. Now, obviously a problem with that is that this is just one layer. I can't just do just a straight focus shift. Now, there is one thing you can do, and that is to use a gradient to apply the focus effect. You can actually apply a focus effect based upon a gradient. Let's just see how this whole thing works. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this background layer, put it down onto the new layer right there, and then I'll hide that background. That way, in case I mess things up, I can always go back to my saved background copy. It's just a little habit that I'm in. Okay, here's our background copy. There are several different blur tools that we can use on an image. Up here, filter and blur, all kinds of these. But we want to be able to use something a little bit more advanced, and that will be the lens blur here. There are more options in the lens blur, including a little trick which we'll be taking a look at in just a second. Let's just first see what this is all about. Here we go. Here is the lens blur dialog box, and in here we have a depth map. You can base this depth map on none or transparency or a layer mask. Right there is what I care about, the layer mask. We'll see how that works in just a little bit. Now the way this works is you can choose the shape. This would be your iris shape. How many leaves are on the iris. We'll just leave that at the default setting. You can then adjust the radius, and the radius is going to control the amount of blurring that you have going on, just like that. So we can get a nice blur for the background in here. Obviously though, the problem is that this is blurring the whole image and not just the background. We want to have the whole image done properly. So let's look at a few techniques and a few tricks to make this work out properly. We'll be coming back to this particular tool in just a bit. So we want to do two things. I want to first create a blur that is blurry at the top and then sharp at the bottom. Since the bottom here is our foreground and the top is the furthest background in the image, so I want it blurry back here and sharp down below. We can do that with a layer mask for that, with a gradient layer mask. And let's see how that's done. I'm also going to make one more copy of this like that, second copy, and I'll hide that. We'll see why in just a little bit. Okay, on there, let's put on a layer mask. So let's go up to our mask right here. Brings a layer mask in. Let's now put a gradient on our layer mask. I want to go from a black to white in here. We have black to white there. That's fine. Let's get our gradient tool. Set that black to white. And I'm going to zoom out just a touch. There we go. So I can put this gradient in. Now if you hold the shift key down, it will give you a straight line. Perfectly straight line on that. So that's what we want. And to see what happens on this, this is applying or showing through my image down below, but not showing the image up at the top. So we have that, that ability to control the transparency of our our image here of this layer based upon a gradient on the layer mask. I'm just going to reverse this. Actually, let's just undo that gradient. I'll pull from the bottom up instead. There we go. So here's our basic gradient. And then we're showing through the background. See, there's the background. There it is. So we're seeing our background, and behind the top part of this image here is showing the bottom part. We're seeing the background. Okay, let's now go back to our focus filter. Filter, blur, and lens blur. There we go. Let's base this on the layer mask. And one little thing here, make sure on the right part, let's make sure that you're on your image and not the layer mask itself. There you go. Notice how that outline that changes. So click on the image. There we are. That's better. Lens blur. Okay, and we want to base the source on the layer mask. And let's undo invert. Alright, now notice at the bottom we're sharp. Nice sharp. At the top we are out of focus. That's what you want. You want to have it sharp down here. You want to have it out of focus up there. I want to keep it sharp just about where his feet are. That's perfect. So we now can adjust the amount of softness at the top. And then again, notice here that we're still sharp down below, so we still have our focus here and it's out of focus up there. That's perfect. And that's being created, that adjustment is being created by that layer mask in here. So it's applying the out of focus at the top, and then it's going away as it goes down because we're using that layer mask to apply that lens blur. Okay, so we're blurry at the top, in sharp focus at the bottom, and that's exactly what we want. Choose OK. So far so good. That is looking just fine. I'm now going to take this image and pull us down below. You can see there, we can see the image in behind now. So there's our image in front, there's our image in behind. That looks great. Pull it back up on top. So now what I want to do is I want to come in and we're going to carefully select the image, these two figures out. And I'll come out just about, about down to here, up around like this, and about down to here. Maybe follow along one of these, these lines in here, so it kind of hides that trick that we're going to be pulling here. And what I'll be doing is we'll be showing this part in here, like that, and then over here. We'll show that part on its own layer. We're going to make the rest of this transparent, and then we're going to see through that to this out of focus layer that's in behind, and then in behind that we'll have our background layer, which will fill in the rest. So by doing these three layers in here, it's going to allow us to have a real nice out of focus, soft focus technique, soft at the bottom, sharp at the down here, and then keep the images, the figures sharp as well. Now I'll be doing a lot of this off camera, so you don't need to watch me spending forever doing this. But we'll start off in here, and to show you what I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to hide those, get those out of the way. And I'll show you over here just the basic idea. And I'll be using my different tools. I tend to use the polygonal lasso tool most of the time for this kind of work. I just happen to like it. It's up to you what you want to use. And I'll start right here at his collar, and I'll just begin coming in and making a very careful selection right along the edge of his outfit. I'll do this fairly quickly. I would take a lot more time and care at this if this was an actual photo that's going to be, selling to somebody, including in an album or whatever. But this is just to show you the technique. So what I'll be doing is I'll be masking out or removing the figures. And you can do it two ways. You can either come in here and delete the area, hit the delete key like that, and then just remove that. and then we'll see the soft focus in behind. There you go. There's sharp focus and then soft focus in behind through that hole. Or you can use a layer mask. Exact same technique to use a layer mask instead. In which case, on the layer mask, you want to have it white. Let me just undo clear. And let's put a layer mask on this layer. There we go. And that's actually backwards of what I want. So I'm going to adjust our layer mask here. Paintbrush. And let's just get that part out of that. There's a little white bit right there. So I want to get rid of that. Okay, now when you're doing a layer mask, you want white to show and black to hide. So let me just reset this. It kind of followed the last thing I did, so I'm just going to put white. So we have white to show, black to hide. So if you're using a layer mask for this technique, same thing. Let me see if I can just reselect that. There we are. You'll make your selection and then fill the selected area with black on the layer mask. See, there's the filled area. And then deselect. And what that does is it's going to show the figure and then give us a hole in the background. We'll be seeing our soft focus in the background. So I'm going to pause the video now, and I'll go ahead and finish that technique up. Again, what I'm going to be doing is carefully masking around the image and then leaving the image on the mask part white, and in the background I want in black. When I finish that technique, when I come back, I'll explain exactly what it was that I did, so you can see how that was done. Let me just do just one more bit down here again so you can get the idea. So take my little lasso tool here, and I'll come down and do a little bit of lassoing, creating my selection. You can use any selection tool that you want for this. It's up to you. Again, I just happen to like this one. So I'll create my selection and from my starting point, which is along here someplace. There it is. And then I'll fill this selection. Make sure that you're on the layer mask. Fill the selection with black. And then deselect. So what that does is it hides that part of the image and shows through our background stuff down here. And this is what we're using to give us that gradated soft focus at the top and sharp at the bottom. Okay, I'll go ahead and pause the video now, and then when I come back after finishing these selections, again, I'll talk you through to see exactly what it was that I did, how I finished that, and then we'll take a look at the final result. Alright, there we go. There is the mask made. As you can see, what I did was I cut around the figures here and kept it pretty close except around the hair. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. I brought it down to about here. I'm not going to care about that. That's going to just disappear. It'll be fine. And then I followed an obvious edge out here and followed an obvious edge around here and brought it back into the figures again and brought that back up. And as you can see, the area that's black is now hidden. The area that's white is what's showing. Now, I didn't do the hair because we want to be a little more careful around the hair. It's a little trickier, as you can see. I could take forever and try to carefully mask all this stuff out, but there's a nice shortcut tool for fixing things like this. Make sure that you're on the mask layer, and then go up here to Select and Refine Mask. Here we go. It brings up the Refine Mask tool. Let's not worry about the edge detection. We don't want to be doing that. We want to be using the Adjust Edge here. Now notice we have you can see right there, the size of this brush. I'll bring the brush size down. It's right there. Bring it down just a little bit. That's pretty good. And then you want to come in and click in where you want to keep your mask. That little X in there, a little plus sign. You want that where you want to have your mask, and then overlap where you want to have it masking out. So if I come in here and just kind of paint along this edge here, then Photoshop tries to find the edges. And as you can see, it does a pretty good job at finding little bits of hair. We'll clean that edge up a little bit here. It's not perfect, but it's a whole lot easier than trying to do it by hand. We'll come in and we'll just paint the rest of that stuff out. Now once you have that, you can change your views in here. I can come in here to black on white and see if I can improve any of that. We also can adjust the contrast a bit and pull some of that edge in. That's actually pretty good. Now the nice thing about this technique is I'm putting this picture back on itself. So even if it's a little bit off, what we would simply have is to have some softness around the edge of her hair, as opposed to having it, too sharp. So I can go kind of like that. That's okay. This is going to look perfect. Let's go over here to the guy's image, and I'll go back here to the on black view. Let me see if I can get that out of there. We'll touch that up. Okay, same thing here. Just paint along like that, and it's going to hide the part that we want to have hidden, and it'll find those edges for us. And just make sure that plus sign stays out in the area that you want to have masked. And Photoshop find those edges. Okay, looks real good. I'll say OK on that one. There we go. I'm just going to fix this. And I'll just grab the paintbrush and do it the easy way. Make sure you're still on the mask. And I'll just kind of come in and touch up that edge. There we go. And that's going to be fine. Now again, keep in mind that this is going to be on the same picture again. So if it if it cuts off a little bit, we'll have that image will still be there. It'll just be a little bit softer. And for the outside of the hair, that's fine. This will give us a real nice edge. So there's that edge. We've done the mask. Let's now fit this on screen. There we go. That's what I've kept in. We now can show the soft background. So you can see what's happening here. We have soft up here, and it gets harder and harder down below there as that soft background fades out. And it fades to transparency, and that's where the final background comes in down below. There it is. So because we're doing it on the same image and we haven't moved anything around, it makes absolutely perfect edges on this. If I zoom in down here on the edge that I did along the edge here, you can't see that at all. There's no visible edge on that. If we go up here and take a look at the hair, it's absolutely perfect on that hair. And same thing on his head as well. Absolutely perfect on that because of that technique. So what this gives us, you see right here, just kind of pick up just a little bit, is we have real nice soft background in the back, nice sharp images on our figures up here. If you take a look at the right hand side, you see it's real soft at the top. It will get sharper and sharper as it comes down towards the bottom. And by the time it gets down to here, here's the edge that I used right there. So we're already in focus at that point, and that's where I cut that edge off. And as you can see here, the part between his legs doesn't matter. That just kind of blends right in. So it gives us that real nice effect of fuzzing out that background. It took 3 layers to do it. Bottom layer is your original, which we don't touch. Second layer is just to give us that softening effect, and then using the gradient filter in here, put a gradient on that matte so that we show the softness at the top and we hide the softness at the bottom. Just goes transparent. That gives us that soft feel. And in the top one, we use this to show our full focus images or figures on top. Let's just back out a little bit. There you go. I don't want to go out too far so it gets too small, but you can see the idea now. By softening the background up like this, it makes them stand out. They pop out of the picture. And you're no longer looking at the stuff in the wall and behind, you're now just looking at them. So they become the focus of the picture. And since we did that gradient, the image looks like it's just soft focus in the background, and it becomes hard focused down here in the foreground, which is what we want. That's the effect that we want. So we're imitating a soft focus technique or a depth of field adjustment technique that you would normally do in camera. We just imitated that here inside of Photoshop. Okay, one last time over here. Background stays the same. The secondary layer just gives us the softness at the top to the hardness at the bottom, like that. Actually, it's softness at the top, and then the out of focus fades away, fades to transparency. And then the final layer puts our figures back in using that layer mask. And again, the whole thing is done, the whole trick here is done by using that lens blur filter right there. Thank you for watching this special Photoshop photography project video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you will get first notice of new project videos in the future. Just click on this link right here where it says subscribe here. You can get all 12 project videos in this series along with 26 special videos demonstrating the tools and techniques that I used in these projects by clicking on this link right down here. And then thank you again for watching this training video.